Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. Please sit down. Your name?
Sir, my name is Himanshu Gupta.
You're a B.Tech in electrical engineering,
Right, sir.
and you also worked as an engineer in interior engineering research. Are you still working?
No, sir, I'm not working here.
You resigned.
Right.
But you've also taken the MDA examination.
Yes, sir, I did, but that was in my 12th class.
Right. And did you get qualified?
No, sir, I wasn't able to qualify.
Is this the first time you've been invited for an interview?
Yes, sir.
It's the first time.
Right, sir.
The third attempt at civil
Right,
service.
sir.
Good. Now notice that your first choice is the foreign service.
Right, sir.
So please answer two of my questions. The first question is, when you have acquired a certain technical skill, you're an expert in technical engineering, or you have taken higher education technical engineering, electrical engineering. Why do you want to join the civil services? And second part of the same question is, what application do you think you can make of your technical qualifications while in service? The second question is, why the IFS your first choice? The first choice of most of the candidates who will be appearing here, and generally those who apply for civil services, is the IAS. I want to know why the IFS is your first choice. So let me have these are two questions.
So first of all, I would not be able to call myself an expert in technical because I have much to learn. And secondly, regarding application of my technical knowledge in the civil services, I think there is a direct and indirect application which I can see. The direct application part is that with regard to the latest technologies or electronics industry or maybe the power energy sector, I think I would have a better grasp of those aspects. And regarding the indirect aspect, I would say that the ability to logically analyze things or overall scientific temper, which I think would be able to help me in the civil services. Secondly, sir, about the IFS in particular, I think this is a great opportunity and a unique service where I would get an opportunity to represent my own country at the global level. So it is a unique job in that aspect. So
You can get even if you're in the IAS, you can get an opportunity to be posted in embassy. You can be posted as an ambassador. You can be posted in a technical service in any foreign country, and you get to represent your country. Why do you want to join a service? Which would mean that most of your career will be spent abroad. If you marry a lady from the foreign service, then you'll probably be spending most of your career in different direct parts of the world. So why is it? What's attracting you to joining the foreign service?
So the major part which attracts me in the foreign service is the global exposure and the diversity of experience and challenges. And this is most particular when the world is smaller due to the globalization right now. So I think IFS would be an appropriate.
Will it help enrich you?
Right, sir.
But then you feel that for self-enrichment, you'd like to join the foreign service. What about your service to the people of this country?
So service to the people of the country is a general thing which I think any of the services, if I am given an opportunity, I would do my best to serve my country.
Okay, tell me, I'm going to ask you a very simple question. You have just been posted as a third secretary to a country which doesn't know very much about India. But now everyone knows it's, as you said, the world echelon globally. You want to make a about 5 minute exposition on how you would introduce India to a say a university students, what would you say? Four minutes, you might say, since we have a time.
Ma'am, I would start with the fact that India has
No, you tell us, just talk as if you were talking to them.
Okay.
It'll save you time.
I would need a few seconds for
Of course.
think.
You are, the country is red there, and you're talking to an educated audience, university students who may not have seen the world, not to your co-diplomats.
I feel India has a very rich civilizational heritage, and we have a glorious past. And since because of that, I think India stands at an exception to the world, and it has the capability to lead the world further as well. Secondly, since India also stands for multilateralism and pluralism, so it is very much placed in the global arena to act as a leader to take the world as a whole. Secondly, about many more things about India is that Indian society is the best described as unity in diversity. So, if I can elaborate on that, it is a unity without uniformity, but diversity without fragmentation. So, that is what my aspect of India is, and the pluralistic culture it has, and it has the capability to bring that pluralism onto the global level as well.
You still have 2 minutes more.
I would also then add that India presently is also now emerging as the a very major economy in the world, and it is one of the fastest growing economies, and it also has the capabilities and of a huge talent because of its demographic dividend that it is reaping right now.
But then whole lot of talk of economic slowdown, you're talking about fastest growing.
Sir, the present economic slowdown, I would say it is a cyclical or a present a glitch, we can say. But overall, if we see in the 10 or 15 years period, I think it is one of the fastest growing economies, major economies in the world.
Well, Himanshu,
Yes, sir.
wanted to ask you a couple of things. Number one, you have your parents working in the government. Your father is an accounts officer or something. Your mother is a private sector, is that right?
Sir,
So where are they working?
So my father is in a private organization
I see.
and working as an accounts officer at Triveni Kala Sangam
I see.
at Mandi House.
Right.
And my mother is a private secretary in the Department of Telecom to the Director of Access Services.
Okay. And that's how you are staying there in Bengali market because you are
Right.
close to Triveni Kala
Right,
Sangam.
sir.
All right. So this is very interesting about your IFS thing. What should be, in your view, the main priority for the foreign service officers these days in the current situation to serve India? Whether it should be more in the economic sphere or investments or political sphere, or what is it?
Sir, I feel the economic sphere has a major part to play
Mhm.
because if there are two countries who are engaged economically very well, then there are very less chances that they would have any animosity between them.
All right. So what can you do to promote India's economy abroad? How can you attract greater FDI into India?
First of all, I think India has a huge diaspora abroad, and the primary primary candidate for attracting investments should be the NRI or the PIOs who are living abroad, who can directly invest into India. Secondly, the Indian economy as a whole can be promoted and can be shown as a huge market for other
So
foreign.
that's one part. What about the foreign companies, the big multinationals who are looking at India? How can you motivate them, persuade them to invest in India?
So persuading multinational companies, I think, would definitely come from the fact that India has a huge talent pool and a huge market, and establishing companies in India would definitely give them a huge advantage in terms of their revenues. Secondly, sir, I would say that MNCs coming into India should also be seen in the light of our own domestic industries as well, because it might be possible that their uncompetitive practices might hamper our domestic
Have
industries
you
as well.
seen or heard the Indian budget today in any way on your mobile or TV? Are you familiar with what are the key proposals in the budget today?
No, sir, I have not got the opportunity to look into it. I will
Did
definitely.
you see the economic survey yesterday? You
Sir.
checked it in newspapers today.
Sir, I've seen the headlines till.
What are the key features of the economic survey? So,
So, to my limited knowledge, I would say first is the economic survey majorly focuses on the wealth creation this time, and it has majorly two aspects for it. One is the market, and other is the trust building.
you work in Qualcomm.
Right, sir.
I see. Which is the area in Qualcomm where you were working?
Sir, I was in the chipset design team. So it was it is technically called an SoC integration team. So SoC is the system on chip, and my main responsibility was to collect the modules which come into a chip and connect them and maintain a database for that.
Why did you quit there? You worked there for about 2 years. Why did you quit Qualcomm?
Sir, I had to resign from the Qualcomm because since I was also preparing for civil services.
Prepare for this.
Right, sir.
Himanshu, so you have taken philosophy as one of your options. So who is your favorite philosopher?
Sir, I would say my favorite philosopher would be the Adi Shankaracharya.
Why?
Because sir, he has an aspect, his school of Advaita Vedanta is a kind of comprehensive school, in the sense that whatever other schools talk about the reality or about the religions, they all can be somehow related to Advaita Vedanta of Shankaracharya, and that is why I think comprehensivity and bringing in all the diversity of every aspect into his own philosophy is good.
Don't you think some of the aspects of Advaita philosophy have been borrowed from the Buddhist school of thought?
Sir, there are some philosophers, some scholars who say that Shankaracharya's philosophy, they term it as crypto-Buddhist as well. Like there are philosophy, like the philosophy of Brahman has been taken from the Shunya philosophy of Buddhism, but I feel it was a simultaneous evolvement of the both of the philosophies. So even Buddhist philosophy of Shunyavad was taken from Adi Shankaracharya's Guru of Guru, that is God of Earth. So
How could it be simultaneous? Buddhism predates Adi Shankaracharya by many centuries.
it's So the philosophy of Buddhism, which we say that which is similar to Adi Shankaracharya, is not at the same timeline when Buddha was there on this earth, because later philosophers like Nagarjuna and all, they were in the 6th to 7th century AD, and that was the time when Adi Shankaracharya was also there.
Himanshu, you have philosophy as your option, right? What is the core philosophy of a foreign policy?
Ma'am, I think core philosophy of a foreign policy is driven by it's a dictum called Palmerstrom's dictum, which is that every nation foreign policy should be primarily driven by its own national interest, and then only we can talk about other ways of.
But don't you
interaction.
think it's a very selfish philosophy then?
No, I think it is not a selfish philosophy, but being a part of a nation, and foreign policy is the policy of a nation as a whole, and to protect that nation's interests, foreign policy is just a means. So.
So if America goes for America first, then we are not happy. China goes for China first, we are not happy. But if India goes for India first, then we are justifying it. So don't you think it is leading to more protectionism? And you have spoken about multilateralism also in your speech. So how do you justify?
Ma'am, that is I think that is the beauty of foreign policy there, because each country's foreign policy talks about its own national interest. All of them come together and then negotiate to bring about a common policy of furthering the humanity.
Also, you had mentioned that indirect benefit that you would be carrying with yourself, the services, is about scientific temper.
Right, ma'am.
What do you mean by scientific temper?
And scientific temper is a kind of attitude which never sees anything blindly. It never follows anything blindly. So every aspect to it is generally a deduction or a kind of an induction from a logical chain of thought. So that is, I feel there is a.
So do you think that religion also holds some scientific temper? You've taken philosophy. What does religion say about scientific temper? Or are they antithetical to each other?
Particularly the origins of Indian religion.
So, ma'am, actually, the religion is generally seen as an article of faith, and being an article of faith, and it superficially it appears that it is antithetical to the scientific temper. But as sir, you talked about the Indian philosophy and Indian religions, I think there is an inherent link between the Indian religion and the scientific temper.
In what way?
I would like to elaborate, sir. Even Adi Shankaracharya also talked about the Shrutis or the Vedas, that they are, first of all, he talks that they are beyond the scientific or logical thoughts, and they are to be used, they are to be followed blindly. But when he explained about this dictum, he said that since these Vedas are so logical and so scientific in nature, it is impossible for them to go beyond scientific.
But then again, that is faith. That's not scientific temper. He's asking you not to question about it. So do we have any philosophy that postulates scientific temper? And I'm talking about Vedic philosophies only.
Ma'am, since Indian philosophy and Vedic philosophy, they generally combine what is science and logic and what is faith and religion.
Which school of philosophy does postulate scientific temper? If you can name one.
Ma'am, there is one school called Nyaya School of Thought, which also talks about logic, and it talks about at length. It talks about the how to bring an inference or उपनय, and I think.
So how do you develop scientific temper in a country like India? And it's mentioned in one of those articles. Which article is this?
It is mentioned in the fundamental duties part.
So how would you develop scientific temper among people? What steps would you take? Or what steps should the government take?
Ma'am, for the steps for the government, I think would be a proper socialization and an education process. If childhood education has been such that it is also encouraging science and maths, I think there is a possibility that people develop a kind of scientific temper.
When is your interview fixed?
Sir, it is on 17th Feb. First.
17th Feb. So you have time. So
Not much time, 17th Feb.
whatever time you have, today is
A
first.
couple of weeks.
So about 15, 16 days. I feel that you should have greater confidence in what you are saying. You should be able to answer questions very precisely and with confidence and conviction. At times you give out a feeling that you are, there's a bit of timidity in what you are saying. The depth is not there. So I think that's what you need to
On
improve.
subjects which you have yourself raised, you cannot afford to be weak. Now, the question is that you were talking in terms of in the foreign service, when the first question was asked you, you said we will convey the glorious past of India. Now, can you seriously think that if you are going to be joining the foreign service, you would be swaying public opinion abroad by talking of India's glorious past? In fact, we are being criticized. Our diplomatic services are often criticized. They've got nothing else to talk about except India's glorious past. Is that what you're going to do in the foreign service?
You should talk about his vibrant democracy.
As a backdrop, the glorious past,
Yes,
yes.
of course,
But
that many
how
wonders of the world are there.
Where do you go from here? That is what
You should make it
people abroad
exciting
will
for
be
them
interested.
to come, to want to come.
And you see, the question is, and the question was specifically asked to you, FDIs. Now the question is that the FDI, encouraging FDI, has been a staple part of the present government's policy so far. How successful, I will therefore have to respond by saying how successful it has been. If you feel it has been successful, then say so. I'm not saying that you should say it's not successful. You say it's successful, but how? Yes, in fact, in deposits in banks and things have gone up from foreign exchange deposits and so on. Others will say this is not successful. Why has it not been successful? These things you have to convey to your interlocutor that you're taught out the subject. When you're predicting something, you get on the question of scientific temper. The promotion of scientific temper and the existence of scientific temper through ancient philosophy, that's a gift of our country to the world. Our ancient
I think
philosophy.
you should have said that at the end of it, you're young people, whether you want to come as a tourist, there are these wonderful places. If you want to come as a scholar, we have huge centers of learning. If you want to come as an entrepreneur, we are an emerging market. And remember that there's a lot of, that this is a land of great wisdom and philosophy. And you can mention Gandhiji, you know, Einstein said that years from now people will wonder how a man such as he, and the message that has been sent has permeated the world and influenced it in many ways, whether it was a freedom struggle, whether it was a philosophy. So, you know, there's so many facets. You have to excite a young mind. And you have to be very articulate. Ultimately, you represent the country. So
I'd like to represent, you have to enjoy the foreign service so that you want to be going to tell other people about how great India is. That is not a very convincing argument. Teaching,
That's-
that's actually part
that's
of your
why it's a
work.
university student.
That's how you will do it, but that can't be the objective of what you're doing in the services.
They're not easy questions, so I know that,
No.
just to prepare you for.
But as I said, the time is not, you don't have a lot of time. But please steep yourself, and you have the capability quite obviously, steep yourself in understanding the issues which you yourself consider important. And these are the kinds of questions that you were asked.
See, on the question of FDI, for example, if I was you, I would first of all look at what is the flow of investment from that country into India, what are the constraints, any examples where people have been struggling and facing problems, how can these be improved? A satisfied customer is the best advertisement, and the new areas where the government is attracting investment. So you have to sell India, marketing of India in that milieu.
And
You
that
can
is what
say
you will do
we have
when
a
you are in the
stable
foreign
democracy.
service.
We have, language is a great asset that we have. We have a stable democracy, various things.
So let's just spend this time we've got left in actually going into detail, studying in detail and thinking about what the people who are interviewing you will be looking at in you. Are you thinking it out? It's not that you come to a particular conclusion that is going to be so important. So don't think that I'm saying the right thing or the wrong thing. The thing is that whatever you're saying is well thought out. That should be the situation.
And which newspaper are you subscribed? Which newspaper do you read?
So I'm reading Indian Express and one is the Times of India as well.
Indian Express and
Times of India.
Times of India. Anyway, the day when your interview is being held, so previous day and that morning, anything of importance, you should be well versed.
Right, sir.
Try and read some economic paper also if you can.
Okay.
Any one of them.
Okay.
Economic
Especially
planning-
after the budget. All
And
the
now
best.
because the budget is very hot now, so you're bound to get questions on the budget. So therefore, you please study these things when you go for the interview.
All the best to you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.